and the omnibus. So I was forced into the Archers when I was a child. And look, it's come back to bite me later on. I'm awash with this stuff.
The Archers is the world's longest-running radio show, with more than 15,000 episodes broadcast. Despite being a rural flavor show, The Archers is recorded in the heart of...
Welcome to The Debate. Today, we're dissecting the events in Ambridge from Monday, January 19th, 2026. We are looking at a village that's currently defined by what is missing. Missing light in the midwinter darkness, missing fodder for the livestock, and perhaps most critically, a missing sense of certainty about the future.
It is a stark landscape. I mean, if you strip away the cozy audio aesthetic of the countryside, what we're actually witnessing is, well, it's a case study in rural collapse. We have biological threats in the form of bovine TB, we have economic predation in the hay markets, and a psychological fragility that frankly borders on the pathological.
I think that's a rather bleak diagnosis. The central tension we need to resolve today is this. Does the survival of a community like Ambridge depend on the so-called soft skills? You know, solidarity, ritual, emotional presence? Or is the only path forward a kind of cold, ruthless pragmatism, stripping away all that sentimentality just to survive the winter?
But it's not about being bleak. It's about being accurate. You look at Ambridge and you see a community holding hands against the dark. I look at the data points, the financial insolvency of the farms, the panic over disease, the price gouging, and I see a group of people clinging to a sinking ship, distracting themselves with Burns night menus while the water rises.
And see, that's the core disagreement. I argue that the distractions, as you call them, the shared grief, the community festivals, the simple act of standing next to someone at a cattle crush, they're not extraneous. They are the survival mechanism. Without that emotional infrastructure, the economic reality would have crushed them years ago.
And I would argue that emotional infrastructure doesn't pay for hay when it's selling at premium rates. I mean, we're seeing the limits of sentimental tradition. When the pressure is truly on, as it is this week, the mask slips. The solidarity, it just evaporates, and you're left with the raw mechanics of survival. Eat or be eaten.
Okay, well, let's test that theory. We have to start with the TB testing at Brookfield. This is really the heartbeat of the episode. We see David Archer and his daughter Pip facing the skin test. Now, for listeners who might not know the specifics, this isn't just a simple blood draw. It's a visceral physical process. It involves shaving the neck of the animal, measuring the skin thickness with calipers, injecting both avian and bovine tuberculin, and then crucially, waiting 72 hours to see if the body reacts.
It's a bureaucratic assault on the animal and the farmer.
Well, it's a necessary procedure for public health. But look at the human dynamic during that procedure. David has a farm to run. He has, in his own words, plenty else to do. Yet he stands there at the crush for hours. Why? Because the burden of that threat, the potential slaughter of the herd, is just too heavy for one person. His presence is a clear act of solidarity.
But let's look at the utility of that presence. Does David standing there change the immune response of the cows? No. Does it lower the price of feed? No. In fact, you could argue it's an inefficiency. Two laborers doing the job of one, simply to soothe anxiety. And listen to Pip. She isn't soothed. She explicitly tells Paul, the vet nurse, "Most days I think I'm insane." She's oscillating between loving her life and feeling like a prisoner of it.
But she shares that feeling. That is the key. When David admits, "I haven't slept at all," and Pip realizes she hasn't either, that's what psychologists call emotional synchronicity. It validates her suffering. If she were alone in that barn thinking she was insane, she might actually break. Knowing her father feels the same dread transforms individual neurosis into a kind of collective resilience.
Collective resilience is a lovely phrase, but I think you're misinterpreting Pip's psychology. She isn't just tired, she's experiencing a crisis of identity. This testing cycle, every 6 months, relentless, has stripped her of her confidence. Note the interaction about the tractor. She claims she was driving a tractor when I was 12 to assert her competence. She's desperate to prove she belongs there.
It's a classic rural brag. It grounds her in her lineage. It establishes that she knows the land better than she knows herself.
Or it's a defense mechanism, because in the next breath, Paul points out she can't drive a car legally. It's not like driving is your job, he says. He thinks he's being nice, but what he's doing is highlighting her entrapment. She can operate heavy machinery within the confines of the farm, but she lacks the agency to function in the outside world. She feels like an imposter. "I'm not even a farmer," she says. That isn't a woman bolstered by community. That's a woman realizing she has sunk her life into a feeling industry.
I think you're underestimating the power of that lineage. When she tells Paul, "I know that from growing up here," she's leveraging her history to endure the present. But I will concede that the process itself it's dehumanizing. The way they read out the ear tag numbers, 751951, 7526, it chills the blood.
Exactly. It reduces living creatures to data points in a slaughter algorithm. Alistair gives the thumbs up or down, and the state machinery takes over. The emotional devastation David describes, it was horrendous, is completely at odds with the cold numerical reality of the test. That cognitive dissonance is what creates the insanity Pip feels. They're trying to love something that the system views as just another unit of production.
And yet, they endure it. They wait 72 hours. That suspension of time is where the community lives. But I want to pivot to your claim about the mask slipping. You mentioned the hay shortage.
Ah, yes. The economics of the hay shortage are, I think, the smoking gun of my argument. If this community were truly about solidarity, about neighbors helping neighbors, we wouldn't see what's happening with Eddie Grundy.
Oh, Eddie is. Eddie's an outlier. You can't judge the moral compass of the whole village by Eddie Grundy.
Eddie is the market. He is the purest rational actor in Ambridge. There's a fodder shortage due to the wet weather. Demand is high, supply is low. So what does Eddie do? He holds back his stock. He waits. He creates a seller's market out of his neighbor's desperation. He tells Lillian the price is bonkers, and he smiles about it. He isn't helping the stables. He is capitalizing on their potential ruin. That is the true face of survival.
It creates tension. Certainly. Lillian is horrified. She knows the stables can't afford that rate. But look at how David handles it. This is where the social capital comes in. David needs hay too. He knows Eddie is gauging him. But does he get angry? Does he scream? No. He says, "Why don't you make me an offer?" He turns it into a game.
He capitulates. David, the supposed moral compass of Ambridge, is willing to play Eddie's game because he's desperate. He admits to Lillian, "I might check it out." This proves that when the cows are hungry, community fairness goes right out the window. The wealthy farmer, David, might be able to pay Eddie's extortionate rates, while the struggling business, the stables, cannot. It's not solidarity, it's survival of the deepest pockets.
I see it differently.
Introducing the Archer's Mug, where elegance meets everyday comfort. Crafted from premium white ceramic, designed with vibrant peekaboo colors inside, simple, modern, and stylish. Start your day the Archer's way, with warmth, familiarity, and the comfort of voices you've come to love. As the stories unfold on the Archers, let this mug become part of your daily ritual, a small reminder of life in Ambridge. Practical for every home, dishwasher and microwave safe. Available in 2 sizes, 11 ounces and 15 ounces, designed to fit your lifestyle. Enjoy your favorite drink in a mug that connects you to Britain's most beloved countryside story, The Archers. For more information and to order your very own The Archer's Mug, follow the link below and make it part of your daily routine.
David teasing Eddie, "Where's the fun in that, Eddie?" is a sophisticated conflict resolution strategy. If David condemns Eddie, he fractures the village social structure. By engaging in this banter, he acknowledges Eddie's nature without starting a war. He preserves the relationship for the future. And note, Lillian doesn't buy the hay. The stables hold the line. The ethical standard is voiced, even if the economic pressure is immense.
They hold the line because they're broke, not because they're noble. But this tension between doing what works and doing what is right bleeds perfectly into the other major conflict, the menu wars.
The beef bin. This is a fascinating cultural skirmish.
It's a case study in commercial adaptation. Fallon is running a catering business. She looks at the data. Haggis is polarizing. Beef bourguignon is a crowd pleaser. It's also, crucially, the perfect thing to prep in advance. She is prioritizing logistics and customer satisfaction over dogma.
But she's sacrificing identity. Jazzer's reaction is not just about food. It's about cultural integrity. To him, Burns Night is a ritual. If you replace the haggis with a French stew because it's easier, you hollow out the meaning of the event. When he asks, does French for crying out loud, he is rightly defending the authenticity that binds the community together. I mean, if everything becomes a convenient version of itself, why bother gathering at all?
Because they need the money. Fallon's retort to Jazzer is the most honest line in the entire script. Jazzer quotes the old adage, the customer is never wrong. And Fallon snaps back, the customer is very often as wrong as can be. It's brilliant. She refuses to be held hostage by a romanticized version of Scotland that doesn't sell tickets. She even invents a flimsy historical justification, Mary Queen of Scots marrying a Frenchman, just to shut Lillian up.
Which was a clever bit of rhetoric, I'll admit.
It was rhetorical gymnastics to justify commercial expediency. And look at Jazzer's other concern, the floodlights. We don't know if Kenton has secured the floodlighting, David warns. This is symbolic, isn't it? They are planning a festival in the dark with the wrong food for a community that's broke. It feels like they're just play acting.
Or they are insisting on light in the darkness. Jazzer's anxiety about the lights is a plea for things to be done right. He wants the ritual to work because the ritual is the antidote to the gloom. And this brings me to the moment where the community actually functions at its absolute best. The scene in the cafe with Fallon and Lillian.
I had a feeling you were going to latch onto that.
Well, how could I not? It is a moment of pure, unadulterated empathy. Lillian is spiraling. The anniversary of Jennifer's death is approaching. She's feeling guilty about her past behavior toward George Grundy. She says, I hate this time of year. It's freezing. It feels really lonely. She is vulnerable, and Fallon steps in.
She offers her a gin and tonic.
She offers her presence. She says, why don't you and I have a G&T together? She offers to build a fire. She creates a space to raise a glass to Jennifer. This validates my entire argument. In the face of grief and guilt, two women from different generations connected by marriage and tragedy come together to keep the cold out. That is the glue of Ambridge.
It's a touching scene, I will grant you that. But I'm cynical enough to look at why Fallon is so eager to have company. She isn't just being altruistic towards Lillian. Fallon is terrified of her own empty house.
You think she's using Lillian?
I think they are two drowning swimmers clutching at each other. Look at the context with Harrison. He drove all the way back to Ambridge for just one evening and then left immediately. Lillian calls it a bit rough. But the voicemail Fallon leaves him at the end, that is the sound of a marriage in deep, deep distress.
It was desperate, certainly. She says, I can't stop thinking about you and about us.
She says something much more specific and much more disturbing. She says, I believe you, you know. If you say that it wasn't you, then it wasn't.
That phrase, it lands heavy, doesn't it?
It's a sledgehammer. If you say that it wasn't you, that implies there's a credible suspicion, perhaps in the village, perhaps just in her own mind, that it was him. Whatever it is, this isn't just a wife missing her husband. This is a woman trying to talk herself out of believing her husband has done something terrible.
It implies a crisis of faith? Yes. It suggests she's having to actively work to maintain her trust in him.
So when she offers Lillian that G&T, she isn't just comforting a grieving aunt. She is filling the silence. She is desperate for noise, for distraction, for winter salads with blood oranges. Because if she stops moving, she has to confront the fact that her husband is gone, and there's a dark cloud of accusation hanging over him. The ritual isn't healing. It's an anesthetic.
I accept that Fallon is hurting, but I disagree with your conclusion. Even if her motivation is partly self-preservation, the outcome is still connection. She didn't turn to a bottle alone, she turned to Lillian. She wove Lillian into her safety net. That is how the community works. It repurposes individual pain into shared support. The motive doesn't have to be pure for the result to be virtuous.
They're building a fire to warm themselves, but they're ignoring the fact that the foundations of the house are rotting.
So let's look at where we leave them. We're in a state of suspension. The TB results are 72 hours away. The hay is still too expensive. The floodlights, they might not even turn on.
It's a 3-day sentence of anxiety, a literal holding pattern.
But in that holding pattern, life happens. My stance remains, the waiting is unbearable only if you do it alone. David and Pip share the dread in the barn. Lillian and Fallon share the fire. Jazzer and the village share the anticipation of the games. They are driving tractors, perhaps illegally, eating sausage sandwiches, and facing these threats as a collective. That shared experience gives the struggle meaning.
And my stance remains that the cracks are widening to the point of structural failure. Pip feels insane because the economics of farming no longer make sense. Eddie is stripping the village of assets because loyalty doesn't pay the bills. Fallon is leaving frantic voicemails into the void. They're performing business as usual, but the underlying systems, financial, biological, relational, are fundamentally broken.
They are bending, certainly, but are they breaking? I suppose that's the question we leave you with today. Is the community of Ambridge a fortress built of tradition and care that can withstand this winter? Or is it a fragile shelter, rotting from the inside, about to collapse under the weight of the 21st century?
We'll know more in 72 hours when the skin tests are read. If those lumps have grown, the whole house of cards might just come down.
Indeed, we will have to wait and see what the measurement brings. Thanks for listening to The Debate.
So, what are you doing now?
Just getting ready for the next episode. Just moving mics around.
So, what do you do?
I do the spot effects on the arches. Any
Are you what we
movements
call Foley then?
and- kind of. Yep.
Okay. And these are all part of the paraphernalia of production.
Yep. That's the ball bar. That's
This one.
Yep. That's.
Haley so wanted to be in their own place when their baby came. It's due in 2 months. Not much chance of that now. No. I mean, it would have been a stretch for them financially, mind, but I just wish there was something practical I could do to help them, Caroline.
I think The Archers has had this immense popularity over the years, basically because it has always very accurately reflected the reality of life and living in a rural community at whatever